Happy 248th birthday, America. I hope you will indulge me as it is the early hours of Independence Day this year. And I don't have any notes prepared, so I want to just speak straight from the heart. Every year on Independence Day, I personally find myself a bit sad. Not because I don't think being an American is a wonderful thing to be. On the contrary, I am very, very proud to be an American. I believe that this country is the greatest nation the world has ever seen or ever will see. Why? Because we were founded on the idea that all men were created equal and endowed by their Creator, my friends, not by government, with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Or as John Locke would have said, life, liberty, and property. But I find myself sad every year around this time because it seems that many of my fellow Americans have forgotten what it means to be an American. They have forgotten that our country was a radical nation founded on radical ideas of individualism, and that government must be constrained by the powers of the people. That is why we have a constitution, even though many of our elected representatives in both parties seem to want to wipe their hind parts with it these days. And that is exactly what I want to talk to you about, because I believe that there are many well-meaning countrymen of mine who love America, but they don't really understand what we are, what we have been, and if we allow it to go away, what the world will be without us. America has historically been a force for good in this world, and I believe without her, the world will see darkness unlike it has ever seen. Like it or not, my friends, we are an example to the rest of the world. And historically, we have been an example of individual liberty, of that radical individualism, of self-sufficiency. But over time, we have lost our way. Many of my fellow countrymen seem to be increasingly more and more dependent upon government. They have a red team or a blue team, and they expect that their particular party, if it were to win an election, will fix all their problems. That's not the country that our founders gave us. Our founders warned us against the state of our nation today. Our founders warned us against central banks like the Federal Reserve, which continues to print money and devalue our currency. According to Reason magazine, by 2034, the national debt is said to be $1.7 trillion. That is outrageous. My mind, as I'm sure many of yours, can't even compute those numbers. And it radically devalues our dollar. And you wonder why you're having a hard time at the grocery store right now. It is the Federal Reserve, my friends, that I believe is the greatest threat to American liberty today. You have many people that would tell you that there's nothing unique about America, that there's nothing special about our nation, that in fact our nation was founded by a bunch of racist white men. If you study our history, you will see nothing is further from the truth. These men fought for liberty, the liberty of all people. Now, unfortunately, in spite of the best efforts of many of our founding fathers, it took a bloody civil war to deliver on the promise that all men were created equal. But today, many of my countrymen seem to forget that fact. They seem to forget the fact that 11 out of the 13 colonies wanted to abolish slavery right then. And the reason, my friends, as I stated in a previous video, on the link between Juneteenth and Independence Day, the reason that slavery was not abolished at the outset of our nation was because the founding fathers in charge of it, Thomas Jefferson, who wanted to abolish slavery right then, and John Adams and Benjamin Franklin, those three men who were in charge of shaping the Declaration of Independence, that beautiful document. Thomas Jefferson was advised against it by the other two because it could not get unanimous consent, because Georgia and South Carolina would not vote for independence if abolishing slavery was included in the Declaration of Independence. And if you read the original draft, Thomas Jefferson ripped King George a new one over slavery. But see, people don't want you to know that. People don't want you to know that our revolution was fought for the liberty of all people. They don't want you to know that there were 40%, just 40, that considered themselves patriots, that fought for the cause of liberty. Another 40 were indifferent. They didn't care one way or the other. And another 20 were loyalists. They were loyal to the British Crown. And I can't help but think to myself tonight, my friends, that if I could just wake up even less than 40% of my countrymen, that we could have a revolution again today. We could see radical change in this country for the better. We could restore that promise of individual liberty for ourselves, for our children, and for our children's children. We have to be willing to make sacrifices. We have to be willing to hold our elected representatives accountable in both parties. Because I'm here to tell you, my friends, the majority in both major parties don't give a damn about you. They don't give a damn about the Constitution. And it is up to us as patriots to educate ourselves, to be informed about the issues, and to hold these elected representatives accountable. Because without us, they will not do it. They must be forced to do so. You know, I get sad sometimes because I think to myself about the Bill of Rights, which guarantees certain things that government is not supposed to interfere with. And yet, we see an ever-growing government that grows by the day, that continues to encroach upon our liberties. So I have to ask myself, what are we really celebrating today as we see our rights and our liberties stripped from us? I'd like to think that we are celebrating that radical spirit of independence. I like to think that there are more people in this country who think like me, but I'm telling you, you have to do the hard work. I want you to take the time to read the Declaration of Independence. There are 27 grievances that Thomas Jefferson listed in the Declaration of Independence. 27 offenses that the King of Great Britain levied against the American colonies. I want you to read all 27 of those and ask yourself, if our government is not doing the same to us, because mark my words, all 27 of those, which I have read time and time again, have been violated. Our own government is doing worse to us today than what King George did to our forefathers. And our founding fathers said enough was enough. They had a firm reliance on God. They understood that without God, they could not win the war for independence. They understood that it would take a firm reliance on the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As Thomas Jefferson put it, the God of nature and nature's God. They knew that we must rely on God and rely on our countrymen. I know with firm conviction there has to be enough of the people in this country who feel exactly like I do. So celebrate America today, but be willing to fight for it if need be. And I'm not just talking about violence, and I shudder at the thought of violence coming to this country. But I ask you, if that be the case, are you willing? Are you willing to shed your blood, if need be, so that your children and your children's children and their children have a country to live in? There are some things, my friends, that are worth dying for. I believe America is one of those things. But we must understand this cost that we may have to pay, maybe sooner than many of us think, will be a high one. But you must be willing to plant seeds for trees with shade that you may never rest in. So celebrate America, and for God's sake, please remember who you are. Wake up. We have always been a giant. Right now, the giant is asleep, and I'm praying that she would wake up. That giant that is inside you and me, that we're all a part of, would wake up and stop taking this from our elected representatives. Remember, our government is supposed to work for us, not us for them. We are not slaves to this government. We hire them. They are our elected representatives. And we must do better, because these people, as angry as you may get about it, are a representation of you and me. I am grateful for this country because there are people like myself who have the ability to be able to speak to you and to be able to create for themselves, still in this world, a position to be whatever they want to be. My job is to wake you up so that you realize what a blessing it is to be an American. So as you celebrate today, I want you to think about all those people that gave their lives so that we could have this country. Please don't let their blood be shed in vain. please be willing to fight to preserve liberty, whatever the cost. We are a peaceful army, but be willing to use violence if it ever comes to it. And I shudder at the thought that it might, but I pray that it never will. And it won't if we use the tools that our founders gave us in the Constitution and educate ourselves about our history and who we really are, so that this giant of a nation can wake up and be great once again. Do me a favor, please like this video, please share it, and subscribe to my channel. I want to wake up as many people as possible. And happy 248th birthday, America. God bless you all.